Hi, I'm David,
And I'm Brienne.
and this is Now Let's Be Honest About Movies, and we are back for Superman and Lois, Episode 3, The Perks of Not Being a Wallflower. Brienne, what did you think about Episode 3?
Yeah, I, again, liked it a lot. The first two episodes I thought were good. I think this one is keeping the standard going. And yeah, I thought it was a good episode.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good episode. I mean, I don't think it was my favorite of the ones so far. Honestly,
No,
I think I still really like the pilot. Like, I think each episode has kind of gone a little bit down for me, but I still
yeah.
think it's really good. I'm not saying like they're bad. I think
Mm-hmm.
that when it comes to quality, I really like the pilot episode, and then
Yeah.
as episodes are gone, I'm like, okay, but it's still very intriguing. I still really do like the show.
Yeah.
I think it will pick back up and stuff for me. It's just kind of trying to roll with it, but I do still really like the show. I'm not in any way trying to bag it or anything. But
Yeah.
like I said, I guess what we'll do in this video is kind of like in the past ones, we'll just talk about some of the main plot points and
Mm-hmm.
our thoughts about them. So that being said, the episode opens up, and we actually have the Kents at their household, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got Lois, you got Jonathan, you got Jordan, and they're trying to decide between, what color to paint the walls, and they kind
Mm-hmm.
of they get into this like kind of wholesome little family fight with like paint and stuff, and they're splashing
Yeah.
around. But then Superman has his like super hearing, and apparently over in China, there's this bridge falling, and he like zooms out, goes over there, and like lifts up
Yeah.
the bridge, which is pretty cool. So what do you think about that scene? Like everything,
Yeah.
how this whole episode started.
Yeah. I really like the opening scene. I think I like whenever there's characters, that are superheroes and things like that, and you get to see them kind of just playing a normal role that's more relatable. Something like a mother or a father or a brother or sister, something like that. I think that's really cool because it just kind of like brings them back down to reality. And so I like getting to see like how he interacts with his wife and how he interacts with his kids. And so I thought that was just like a really cute little sweet scene. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what makes the concept of this show so intriguing. And I think it's also very similar to what made Smallville so intriguing, is because
Yeah.
you have this very larger than life character, but you're seeing him struggle with day-to-day things. In
Yeah.
Smallville, he was struggling with just being like, a teenager, like a high schooler. Just like trying to go through like a romance and all this stuff. In this one, he's this larger than life guy, but he's just struggling learning what it means to be a dad. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's actually really cool when you see him like going through all this stuff, and you get this cute moment with him and his family, but then he's got to zoom away. And it's cool because I even like this scene where he's lifting up the bridge, because there's like the guy who's like underneath the bridge, like in the boat, and
Yeah.
like looks down at him, and he's like hi, and that's like a perfect Superman move.
Yeah.
I do want to also talk about that. Like, he's holding an entire bridge over his head with one hand. He's just like,
Yeah.
hi, and like even like makes a joke. He like looks at the paint on his hand. He's like, oh, whoops.
Yeah.
Do you know how strong that means he is? Like, one-handing a bridge,
Yeah.
easy. And then I'm pretty
Well, to lift a bridge with two hands is already impressive.
I mean, yeah, that's true.
Like, two hands alone is already impressive. But then he's like, well, we're going to take another step. We'll just do one hand.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure in the last episode, whenever they went to the whole Fortress of Solitude thing, Joel told Jordan that he was like 1/100th the strength of Superman. And if Superman is one-arming a bridge, that still means that Jordan is really, really powerful. So,
Yeah.
I mean, just if we're talking about the whole plot, like really the main driving plot of this whole episode, I can see Clark's concerns, because I mean, 1/100th of his strength is a whole lot when you're talking about a guy who can easily, like, he wasn't even like flexing his muscles. He's just like easily one-arming a bridge. I'm like, okay, this dude's powerful.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that being said, we get this very early moment where we just get to see, Superman. It's kind of obligatory that they have little moments like this in a Superman show, so it's not just all family drama.
Yeah. Yeah.
And later on, it goes to the next morning and stuff, and him and his family are kind of talking, and they get to talk about super hearing. And he's explaining to them how that works, and he's like, yeah, I actually pick up the fluctuations and stuff, and really just kind of, explaining the whole Superman mythology and like his superpowers and how they function. And I thought that was just kind of fun, like,
Yeah.
a dad trying to explain to his kids how he can like do these miraculous things, which is kind of cool. But what I really liked after that is obviously, the kids, they go off to school. There's this really cool moment that I enjoyed. Oh, my phone just went off. There's this really cool moment where Clark, he's just like at the barn. He's like observing the track. He's looking at the tractor and stuff like that. And then he just like starts walking out of the barn and he just like opens up his ears to listen to like everything around him. And eventually we'll get him in some trouble because he's going to kind of snoop on his kids. But no, before it got to that point, I just thought it was actually like a really cool, like, I don't know, like the sun's like shining, like walking, and you realize this guy has so much power. And also you can see how this would be very overwhelming as like just a human access to literally all the sounds. Like he can literally hear a sound in China if he wanted to. Like that's like, I don't know, like just thinking about it, like imagine how much self-control he has to have. In our world nowadays, people already have enough time, like a hard enough time with technology and stuff, just like silencing their minds. Like even myself, like where I'm like, I just want to like be still and silent. Imagine Superman's powers. You could hear everything in the world, yet you're just trying to like focus on a conversation with one person. That's self-control. I don't know what you thought. It was cool.
Yeah, but it also kind of shows how good of a person he is too, like his character as a person, because so many people could use that for like malicious intentions, and you see how he doesn't take advantage of any of that. Like he knows that he has those powers, but yet doesn't take advantage of them. So I feel like that just kind of really shows who he is as a character also.
Yeah, and his kids even, I mean, they make a joke like that at the breakfast table because they're like, hey, so what are some of the most private moments you've heard involved? And like you could really invade people's privacy. You could use it for purposes. You could listen in on secret conversations and hear stuff, but he doesn't, right? To me, the most intriguing part about Superman is that, a lot of people say that he's not an intriguing character. He's intriguing because of what he chooses not to do. Because if any of us had that power, we would probably use it for the wrong reasons. But Superman, he's this amazing guy. But while this is all going on, you have Jordan and Jonathan. They're at school, and obviously Jordan is talking with Sarah because for some reason they're still talking to each other, even though there's a lot of tension between Sarah, her boyfriend, Jordan. Like I don't know what this kid's like. I don't know. Like I don't know why you would be dealing with this.
Well, my thing is that he complains about it, but yet he always like walks himself into the situation. He's like, why am I getting bullied, and why are people like treating me rude? And he tells his brother, he's like, it's your friends on the football team that are doing all this. But it's like, well, you still continue to talk to the girl and walk with her in the hallways and still talk to her. So it's like,
and maybe it's just because we're not 14-year-old kids in high school. Because maybe, I mean, if I were a 14-year-old kid in high school, maybe that's exactly what I would have done. I don't know. But that was one thing that does kind of bother me because he is always complaining. And the reason he even joins the football team later on in the episode is because he wants to get back at these people. And I'm like, really? I mean, you're the one who kissed his girlfriend. I mean, like, and you're the one who continues to hang out with his girlfriend. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just kind of weird to me. I mean, I'm not saying that she can only have her boyfriend and no other guy friends, but maybe like give it a little bit more time, like these are like recent, band, like just, you just ripped off the bandage and then like, you're still just like attacking the wound. Like maybe just give it some time, give it some space, walking with her down the hallway and stuff. So obviously the boyfriend gets upset. He starts like bullying him and stuff. And, Clark hears this and he like zooms over there and like stops the whole thing. And to me, from my perspective, Clark is totally justified here. Because, Jordan's going to get upset and be like, you need to trust me. Like, why did you even let me go to school if you didn't trust me? Right before Clark showed up, Jordan looked into Jonathan's eyes and you saw Jordan's eyes light up like he was about to like. Yeah, and the thing that stopped him was Clark showing up. I'm like, are you sure you control over these powers? Like you think you do, but you're not proving yourself very trustworthy. So what did you think about all that?
I feel like he always, because I think Superman is like a really good dad. Like if you think about how many powers he has in all the roles that he plays, he's in charge of, like keeping the world safe while also having to like obtain like raising 2 children and like keeping a good relationship within their family and like trying to be the backbone of that also. I think he does a really good job balancing that. I mean, I know if I was in that position, I probably would not do as good of a job that he does. Like, he does a great job.
Yeah,
And I
he's an
feel like,
expert at time management.
yeah, and I feel like Jordan always just like attacks him like all the time. Anytime he like tries to do something when it's good intentions, like okay, maybe like listening in the conversation, like I could see why somebody would be like, well, Dad, you probably shouldn't do that. But like he was doing it with good intentions. It wasn't like he was just like, I don't know, listening to a conversation that he didn't like. It was to help him, to help both of them, like both of his sons. So I don't know. I feel like Jordan needs to maybe just calm down a little bit. Like he just found out that his son has powers just like him. Like that's a lot for like his dad to swallow, you know? And then at the same time, Jordan has to figure out what he's doing because he has all these powers and he's like, wow, I have powers. And now I got to figure out how to like control them. So it's like both of them are dealing with something. And I feel like they come to a compromise in the middle, but I feel like Jordan just kind of doesn't want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I get the desire that you want your parents to give you space in that matter, right?
Yeah.
You don't want Clark. I mean, that is one thing where if you have super hearing, it would be very easy to abuse that power, and parents can even be too clingy nowadays. Some parents have the opposite thing, you know, like sometimes it's hard to fight for that balance where you know where to be there for your kids and where to like let them be free. So I see how he would have that temptation, but I think in this episode, Clark is totally justified, as we're about to see, because immediately after this, you know, Jonathan's out there. He's in his football gear. They're having tryouts. And then Jordan comes out. He's in his football gear. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to try out too. And Jonathan's like, dude, do you know what you're doing? I mean, you've got powers. Like,
yeah.
Doing this. Like, Dad said you shouldn't do this. And he's like, yeah, Dad said he also wasn't going to listen to us. But guess what? I guess we can both keep secrets. And it's like, oh my gosh. Like, and you wonder why your dad feels like you have to listen. You're a kid who just figured out you have superpowers, and you don't know what those extent of those powers are, and you're literally going to go play a sport that involves you ramming into other people. Like these people already get injured in football as it is.
Yeah.
Now a super powered guy who has 1/100th of the strength of Superman is going to go tackle these kids.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, no wonder your dad doesn't trust you. I mean, proving yourself trustworthy. You know, like, that's one of those things. It frustrated me because I get where Clark's coming from. Like Jordan, like if Jonathan's the one who had the powers, I don't think you'd have these issues because Jonathan's very level.
Yeah.
Jordan, like, you know what? I'm doing everything that I want to do and following my own desires. I don't get why nobody trusts me. And it's like, well, desires are reckless.
Yeah, of course it was given to the kid who's like temperamental and like,
yeah. So that just frustrated me because then, sure enough, whenever Jordan goes out there, he's tackling kids left and right, and he's like throwing them right, like these like taking them out to where eventually the coach actually comes up to Jonathan and says, "Hey, you need to take 5 laps for not telling me about your superstar brother over here." And actually has to pay for the fact that his brother's out here showing off. And it's because it's like super strength. And it's like his whole thing, like later on, he will say that, you know, I have a feeling I can hold it back. And I'm like, but do you though? Because I think actually we overestimate our ability to control ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, usually I'm like, yeah, I can handle this. It's kind of like when people go out to party and they're like, yeah, don't worry. Like, I know my limit. It's like, do you really though? Because usually most people, they say they know their limit and they don't know their limit. So I'm afraid of with Jordan here. It's like, he's like, yeah, I know when to like not use my powers. I'm like, really? Because we've only seen you use your powers a few times, and it's always been in occasions where I don't know, you weren't in control, right? You're in the middle of a fight, you get angry, boom, lasers come out, and you could have killed people. So I'm like, how do you know that you're in control of this? You didn't know that you had these powers whenever you like saved your brother. You just had this feeling. I don't know. It's just I get anxious for Clark because I'm like, I get from man. I mean, I don't think people are allowing you to be a super dad because this is a situation.
Yeah.
But then later on, we got to deal with this other thing because Sarah, Lana's daughter, she is broken up with her boyfriend. Finally the door is opening up for Jordan to step on in there. Not only did she do that, but she quit the cheer team and kind of stormed out. Man, Lana, I will say this, Lana did not she didn't handle that very well. You know, she did do a very good job of drawing the line between like family connection and teacher student relationship.
Yeah.
You've had like family members as your teachers. They do a
Yes.
better job, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'd figure because I don't know. Lana really like they're in the middle of
She acted like a parent. Yeah.
yeah, she's acting like a parent here. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to treat your kid a little bit differently in a school environment.
Yes. Yes.
Because that was pretty embarrassing. I felt kind of bad for Sarah there. I was like, okay, that's. I don't think you would talk to your other like cheerleaders in this way.
Yeah. No.
Sarah, she storms out, and later on, you have the twins eating with Sarah at this diner, and Lana comes in, and this is like a really intense and kind of embarrassing scene because
Yeah. Yeah.
Lana comes up and she's like, "We need to talk," and Sarah's like, "Anything you need to say to me, you can say in front of them." And I'm like, "Do you really know them that well? Are you sure? Like how close of friends are y'all? Because that's like a very, I mean, what it could be something very personal that maybe they should.
You don't want to share. Yeah.
Yeah, but turns out Sarah is an open book because she begins to just openly bash her family in the midst of the whole diner. And she's like, yeah, dad sleeps on the couch. You're addicted to meds and like all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
This is horrible.
Yeah, I was like, geez. But I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've known kids like this. Like whenever I went to high school, I knew girls who were literally this exact same way. And guys who were like this too. They just like lash out. And you're like, this was not the appropriate context or situation in which to do that, but
Here we are.
for doing that. So what did you think about that scene?
Yeah. Initially, I was thinking why Lana even went in during that time. Like, I wonder why it was such a urgent thing that she needed to talk about. Like, she couldn't have waited until she like came home or something like that. You could have avoided that entire situation if you would have just waited, especially if you know your daughter and you know her tendencies, right? She lashed out in front of like an entire cheer squad. I think if you were to come and approach her somewhere else, she'd probably also lash out again. So now that would be like 2 times of like public humiliation. So you would think that she would wait until you got to your house, so maybe you could approach that in a more calm manner, so you could like sit down and talk about it. But we didn't. No, that didn't happen. We decided to just do it in the middle of the diner. That was interesting.
She probably didn't think it through that much. That's for sure. But I'm glad that she did, though, because there's a few good things we got out of this scene. One of them was Jonathan's facial reactions. I don't know if you noticed that during the episode. Yeah. Jonathan's just sitting back there, and he's just like, I felt like he was the crowd because like he's just like
yeah.
Me a little bit of how I imagine Clark would have handled this situation as a teenager. He's just like, oh man, wish I was not here. This is awkward. Our friend yelled at in front of her mom, and we are at the booth with her. He's just like looking around. He looks so embarrassed, and I just thought it was funny because it seemed like a very genuine teenager reaction. And so, I was really entertained by that. But then at the end of the scene, this was my favorite thing. Literally, we, Brienne and I, we watched these episodes at different times. Mm-hmm. And so she'd already watched the episode. I watched it a little bit later, and I texted her about this whenever I saw this because I don't know, this line cracked me up. Because so basically Sarah says, Lana, like, Mom, buzz off. And so Lana like leaves. Lana brings Sarah with her, right? She's like, we're leaving now. And so they get up and leave. And as they're leaving, Clark happens to be coming in, and he's like, Lana. And Lana's like, not now, Clark.
Yeah.
Leaves. And I don't know why. Like, I literally just texted, Lana, not now, Clark, to Brienne, because that just cracked me up for some reason. I don't know why that entire line it was very entertaining to me. I think it just had some Smallville flashbacks, because
I was about to say,
yeah, it's exactly like Lana in Smallville. Not now, Clark. Just like, don't have time.
Yeah.
And Clark's just like, he's totally oblivious. He just comes in there, sits down with his son. He's like, that was football practice. And then, they kind of like dodge around the question, and Jordan like lies a little bit, and Clark's like, nice. And then he's like, waitress.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like that whole thing. I do like what they're doing with Clark in this show, where you see the like, he's got like a persona that he's putting on when he is Clark Kent. He's like an entire like bumbling reporter, like He was a little bit at the Daily Planet and like the flashback scenes and stuff.
Yes.
The first episode, but in this one, he's more just man, my phone keeps going on. In this one, he's more of just like your everyday guy who's
Yeah.
supposed to be kind of just going under the radar. He's just like a happy-go-lucky, like hi, just a dude. And so I do kind of like what they're doing here. But then during all this, you've got Lois who's pursuing her like investigative journalism stuff, and they're basically trying to figure out what's going on. There's this woman who comes in. Her name was what? Something Powell, Sarah Powell.
I don't think it's Sarah.
I don't know. It's somebody Powell. She comes in, talks about her son went missing. She shares this voicemail thing. Lois wants to pursue it. The girl she works for is like, Lois, don't really pursue that. We see this guy outside taking pictures of them.
Yeah.
You're like, ooh, what's going on here? And later on that night, Lois's car explodes, and they're like, oh, this is getting serious.
Yeah.
And so that's really what's going on there. I don't have much to say about that, but did you have anything to say about Lois's investigative journalism going on in this episode?
I like that they kind of just the idea, just in general, that they kind of like highlight her and her story. I think that's cool. That it's not just about Superman and like what he does, but that we also get to see kind of like what she does too, as like one of the top reporters. I think it's kind of cool that we get to see that, but nothing about that scene, just kind of in general. I like that we get to follow her journey also.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that's what I have enjoyed about the show, is that they're very true to their title. It's called Superman and Lois, and so they're not just emphasizing Superman. They're making sure to like make sure they both got their plot lines, and they do intersect. Like later on, they will intersect to where it's like, okay, both of their plot lines are kind of going together here. But me being the Superman fan, I've got to be honest, I'm not watching the show for Lois. Lois is there. I'm there for Superman. And so every time Lois is up, I'm like, okay, I appreciate that you're getting this storyline, but like, I need my boy Supes to come back.
Yeah.
But I do like it. I think she's there's some things that are interesting to me. This isn't that important. But the fact that, she's wanting to pursue these leads and her boss is having to be like, hey, like, we don't have any validation for these. Like, we need to like get more credibility. Like, we need to get more credible leads. I found that weird that she'd be giving Lois this advice, because I feel like this is stuff Lois would know.
Yeah.
It comes from like the Daily Planet. Like, she's been doing like way bigger stories, but like, I don't know, that felt kind of odd to me in the show, because I was like, why does this girl from the Smallville Gazette know more about how to get correct leads than Lois Lane? Maybe it's used to just following her hunches, and they usually pan out. So I don't know. That was kind of weird to me, just thinking of it. I think I was probably overanalyzing that. Later on, basically, I think this is back at home, and I think Jonathan and Jordan are talking with each other, or it's probably maybe Jordan's lashing out at I think they're talking about how Clark had come and like broken up the fight earlier that day, and Jordan kind of responds. And he says, I put the quote down. He says, "I'm getting sick and tired of people treating me like I'm some sort of ticking time bomb." And whenever I heard that, I was like, that's like the most unself-aware comment I've ever heard in my life. Because when I look at this kid, he is a ticking time bomb.
He literally is,
Like, that's why people are looking at you that way. It's because you are. Like, have you noticed, like, in the last 3 episodes, you've lashed out every single time. The only time your brother lashed out, he had good reason to lash out. You were complaining so much. So, like Jordan, he gets, maybe it's part of the whole, social anxiety disorder. I don't know, because they did address that at the very beginning, like literally the opening dialogue of the pilot episode. They said he was diagnosed with social anxiety disorder. I don't know what all that entails. I don't really know. But this guy, he lashes out a lot, and he's like, I'm tired of people treating me like I'm a ticking time bomb. And I'm like, well, dude, you kind of act like a ticking time bomb. So it's not like they're without reason for looking at you this way. You literally just go do what you want. You just got told you have superpowers, and you're complaining about the fact that you don't have cooler superpowers. That's one thing. And then you're going and you're playing football, not caring about whether or not you injure the other people, and you're going into it just to prove a point to this girl's ex-boyfriend who like dating anymore, but you're wanting to prove a point, and I don't even know what the point is because like you kissed her, so like I mean, I don't know. If a guy kissed my girlfriend, I'd be kind of like, hey man, that's not cool. I probably would hopefully handle it a bit better, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't really get what Jordan's motivation is here. But once again, I got to remember he's a 14-year-old in high school. I guess it's to be expected.
Also,
Yeah,
yes.
that's just anytime something happens, I'm just gonna lump it off to that. Be like, oh, this is a freshman in high school. Maybe if I were a freshman in high school now, I'd think the same way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then later on, we have Clark showing up, and he runs into Lana on the streets of Smallville, and they start talking. And I think this is the first time where we've had just like Clark and Lana getting their own little time together, just like talking. And it was kind of fun. I'm still not totally sold on the Lana actress.
Yeah.
Probably just because I literally watched like what 7 or 8 seasons with Lana in Smallville.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm just so used to a different version of Lana that it's kind of taken me a while. And also Annette O'Toole in Superman 3. They're vastly different versions, whereas this Lana is actually a little more fleshed out. It seems like she's got more baggage. You know, she's older. She's got a different lifestyle. In the past, Lana has always been kind of, you know, the ideal, like the person you want to be. Like the, you know, the popular girl in school. You know, that's why he's like wanted to be with her. It's like, oh, it's the dream girl. Whereas here, it's like she was that girl, but now she never left the small town. She kind of settled for this guy that she's not even really happy with. Like, so it's a very different Lana. So I'm still trying to get used to that.
Right.
They have this conversation together, and at the end of the conversation, Clark learns that Jordan is playing football. It's like oh. So what do you think about this scene between Clark and Lana?
Yeah. Whenever they first had a conversation, I was like, "Oh, cool." Like I didn't think really think anything of it until she mentioned the football thing. Then I was like, "Oh no, this is not going to be good." Like the bomb has been dropped. Like he is not going to be happy with Jordan. So yeah.
There's one little detail that I did think was kind of funny because it seemed like an actual parent thing that would happen. Because she said, "Oh yeah, I heard Jordan's been really good out on the football field," and he's like, "Oh, I think you mean Jonathan." Because I've seen conversations like that, like you know, people just get they get the children mixed up, and there's like, I think you're talking about Jonathan, and she's like, "Oh no, I know who I said. I meant Jordan."
Yeah, I was right.
Huh? And then of course, you have this is where it goes back to the football field, and Jordan's like out there, like just like taking people out, and he goes head to head against Sarah's ex-boyfriend, takes him down, and then he's like, "I'm sorry I kissed Sarah. I shouldn't have done it. My bad." And it was like, you just done that from the beginning? I mean, I guess it's a weird, like, macho testosterone masculine thing where it's like, I just proved that I'm above you. Now I apologize to you, so we're cool. I guess that's what was going on there. I guess, like, while he was still the wimpy guy, an apology wouldn't have worked, so he kind of had to prove himself and then apologize. I guess so.
Yeah.
But then he helps him up, and then, of course, he's happy, but then he looks over there, and Clark's just standing there. He's like...
Yeah.
And then, of course, you cut back to the Kent household, and who's freaking out? Jordan.
Yep. Who would have guessed?
What's that?
I said, who would have guessed?
Who would have guessed? Yeah, so Jordan, he's just lashing out, and of course, he says some pretty rude stuff. Like, I feel really bad for Clark here, because once again, I get where Clark's coming from. I mean, Jordan has done nothing to give Clark a reason to trust him at school.
Yeah.
Like, Clark has been giving him as much as possible. He's like, hey, man, we're going to, like, I'm letting you go to school. You just got to be trustworthy. He gets into a fight, and he's, like, literally about to lash out with his powers. Clark's like, okay, I stopped the fight. I'm sorry, I won't do it again. And he's like, I won't listen to you anymore. Like, I'm going to school. I'm not listening to you anymore. And now you're going and playing football? Like, Jordan is not doing anything to make it easier on Clark. And Clark is doing everything, like, just trying his best. And I'm like, he can only give up so much. Like, really got this is the first ever, as far as we know, like half Kryptonian, half human, like, kid out there. You don't know what this kid could do. You got to be patient here, man. But he's lashing out at Clark, and he's saying, you know what? You do everything wrong. And I'm like, really? Clark does everything wrong? Like, you're Superman, that he does everything wrong?
Yeah.
I don't know. And then he eventually says, I just wish that it would go back to how it was whenever you were never around. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I guess that is how kids talk to their parents sometimes. I would never talk to my parents that way. I don't think you would ever talk to your parents that way.
No.
I know there are kids out there who definitely would.
Yeah.
This is where I'll say, and this is the first time, like this scene in particular was the first time that I really felt the CW aspect of the show.
Mm-hmm.
It was like that teen angst, like just unearned even, because you would think that Jordan would just kind of come home, because it's not like he should be surprised that his dad was mad. Like Jonathan,
Right.
he knew it, and he was purposefully hiding it from his dad because he knew that his dad wouldn't approve. So, like, an appropriate response would have just been like silence and just like, coming in and being like, "Yeah, Dad, I know I shouldn't have done it." But instead, he's like, "No, I wish that you were never around anymore." And it's like, this kid. And then so finally, Clark's like, "Go to your room," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"That's a good thing to say. Just go to your room. Don't talk to me that way." And also,
Yeah.
it takes me. I mean, that shows that he knows that his dad's a good guy, because like you're talking to Superman that way. I mean, if he wasn't a good guy, you'd be through the wall. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I like that Donovan right there. He just like watched Jordan go upstairs, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking."
Yeah.
And then Clark's like,
He's
"You
like, I'm on y'all's
go
side. I
upstairs."
promise.
Yeah. But I really like Jonathan throughout like all of this. Like there's times whenever you think that he's gonna get really, really jealous, and they might be building up to that in the future.
Yeah.
But so far, he's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
Because you do see that tension where he is getting really frustrated with Jordan a little bit, because he's like, dude, I mean, now you got superpowers, and like football was my thing. Like that was my thing, and now you're coming in and doing it.
Yeah.
Some tension there. But ultimately, at the end of this whole debacle right here, Jonathan goes up there to talk to Jordan, and they're kind of just talking back and forth. And then Jonathan lays his, like he looks like Jordan's phone buzzes. Jonathan looks at the phone, and it's one of the football players texting him to ask about planning like defense and stuff, like just trying to plan strategy. And then Jonathan walks back downstairs, and I didn't know what was going through his head at this point,
Yeah.
because he seemed kind of like shaken up, and I was like, oh man, is this where he's gonna like lie about his brother, or like do something to like screw him over? I don't know what you thought here. What did you think whenever he was like walking downstairs?
I also was kind of confused. I thought that would have been the moment whenever he was like about to lash out, but like he was just going to his parents to do it, just because he seems to usually take the high road in situations like that. And so he's like, let me not lash out at my brother that has superpowers that might, laser me. Let me go downstairs and talk to my parents. So he was still, I thought, he was still trying to be wise while also being frustrated at the same time. But I wasn't 100% sure where his mindset was and the conversation was going to go.
Yeah. I just, for some reason, I was like, oh man, like just look on his face. I was like, oh, this is it. He's about to go do something to just like just do something against his brother. But then he just like goes up there and he's like, Dad, I know that there's danger with this, but like, it seems like this is actually really good for Jonathan.
Yeah.
I think you should let him play football. And I was like, oh my gosh, what a good brother. Because
yeah, no, he is. Yeah.
football was your thing. And then you literally left your high school, you left your house, you left your girlfriend for this brother. Now your brother, he's got superpowers. You don't, as of yet. Who knows? But
right.
You don't have powers, and you're wanting to help him figure out the extent of his powers. And then he starts playing football, which is your thing, yet you're wanting to encourage him in that. I'm like, man, you are just an amazing, amazing brother, which makes me think that they are building up something to where eventually he's going to snap, because so much where I'm like, ooh, this probably won't end well. I hope it does. Like, because honestly, this guy, like the kid right now is being like a picture perfect Superman. Like he is literally in training. He is like the Boy Scout, the good guy who's doing the right thing. But I got a feeling that it's gonna be like this bait and switch where Jordan is like the really moody one who seems kind of bad, and then like Jonathan's the good one. And I feel like there's gonna be a reversal, at some point. I don't know how they're gonna do that. Yeah. So he's just like, Dad, you just gotta like let him play. I think he needs it. I know we don't know like how it's gonna work out, but I think it'd be really good for him. And so Clark's like, all right, cool. And while they're having this conversation, Lois, she's gone, and she's gone to like a creepy motel to figure out like what's going on with her lead, because that Powell lady like wanted to meet up with her, because apparently there wasn't just her son who disappeared, but there were like 3 other guys who also disappeared at this other place. And so she goes there, and when she goes in, the entire hotel has been ransacked, and she's like, "Oh, this is weird." And there's this really, really tall dude who's just like standing there, and he starts like throwing her around. And
Yeah.
she's like, "Ha ha!" And she like brings out her like Superman beacon. He's like, "That won't help you." She's like, "But this will." And then like Superman, like, man, he's quick.
Yeah, he is.
I'm imagining like he was just like sitting there talking with Jonathan, and then he's just like, phew, out, because
Yeah.
flies in. He starts beating this guy up, but then you quickly realize that this guy, he's not just a regular dude.
Yeah.
He's pretty powerful. What'd you think about this scene?
Yeah, I know whenever the scene first came, I was like painting while I was watching it also, so I was kind of like multitasking, right? And so it went from one scene to the next. She's walking in, and she was talking with Clark before, like, "Hey, this is where I'm going. I'm gonna use your truck, whatever," because hers, caught on fire. So she goes to the motel, goes into the room, and all of a sudden, like, the music changes, and it got like so much more intense.
Got like
And it was a few seconds in, and I just like looked up, and I was like, "Hold on, let me rewind that. Like, what just happened?" Because the music got so intense, and I was like, "This is kind of like taking a different turn." I was like, it wasn't really horror, but like suspense, like a suspense, like thriller type feeling of a movie. I was like, we haven't really seen that in this show yet, so that was kind of cool. And I was like, where is this about to go?
And stuff, and
yeah, I was like, where is this about to go? And then she calls Superman. He comes, and then he's not able to phase him at all, and he's like, punching him, and he's just like standing there like a steel block. I was like, what is going on? Like, this is like, who is this?
Yeah. I mean, just imagine. I mean, what does Superman do in that moment? I mean, we see what he does. Luckily, super strength isn't his only power, but that's a pretty impressive. Like, that's gotta, you probably pee yourself in that moment, right? You're Superman.
Yeah.
You've got like literally, you can one arm a bridge. You
Right.
punch this guy, and it doesn't even like dent his cheek. I mean, that means that this dude, like, I mean, if just a regular guy is punching a regular guy, you can knock the person out, knock him to the ground. This is Superman punching this guy. It doesn't even dent his cheek, and Superman's like, huh.
Oh no.
Guy, he starts pummeling Superman and almost knocks him out. He at least knocks him to the ground. And then Superman like floats back up. It's actually a really good fight scene. I think they did a really good job where it's like they're moving really quick, but then it would like pop, like it's like, I don't know, it's a really cool way of like capturing like these superpowered beings fighting. But eventually Superman like freeze breath, and then punches him, and then he kind of like ping pongs him.
Yeah.
And then he like super speeds, ding, ding, and it's like, okay. And then that guy, I guess they just knock him out of the building and then assume that he's fine. I don't know, because then Lois is like, she's found the Powell lady. She's like, "Oh, she's almost dying. You need to get her to the hospital. I'll be fine." And I'm like, how do you know you'll be fine? Like,
I thought that too. I thought the same exact thing.
I was like, you weren't fine a second ago. I was like, couldn't Superman easily just like
take you? Yeah.
Take both of y'all? I don't know. But he doesn't. He's just like, "All right, I trust you, honey," even though literally he just almost got killed by a superpowered being that's stronger than me. But okay, that's fine. So he super speeds away. But then we cut to this scene between Sarah and Lana, right? Sarah's just sitting on her bed. She's been like moping around and stuff. Y'all can probably tell I'm not a huge fan of Sarah. And to be honest, I don't fully understand. I'll talk about this again in a second. But I don't fully understand why people are interested in her. But we'll get to that in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. But Sarah and Lana, Sarah's on her bed, and Lana walks in, and they start having this heart-to-heart conversation. It's a pretty good conversation. What did you think about that scene? Whenever they're kind of just talking about their different, their feelings.
Yeah. I think that there's faults on like both sides of like Lana and Sarah. I think it was good that they finally sat down and talked it out, because anytime they've had like a conversation, it was very like, this was still kind of emotionally driven too, but to much further extent where they're kind of more like lashing out at each other. So the fact that they got to sit down and actually talk, that was good, because they had a nice calm conversation. They were both able to state, their sides of the situation. I was like, okay, this is a much better approach than the 2 instances we had earlier in the episode. So I was like, I'm glad that we're finally coming to, a solution here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I think it was a really good bonding moment. It was really good to just, they finally got to sit down and figure out what their issues were. And really, it seems like the main issue with Sarah is that she feels trapped, mainly in Smallville, and she doesn't want to become like her mom.
Right.
Which is, that's valid, but this is one of those things where it's a good plot point, and I believe that a lot of people can probably relate to it. But so I don't know, like this is where like I get kind of convicted about certain things. My phone needs to stop going off. I should probably have turned it on silent, but I'm not going to do it at this point. This is one of those things where I just get convicted because I feel like it's like an increasing problem in our society. It's like a big first world problem where people are like, oh, I'm in this small town. I'm so trapped. I just need to get out. And so you have these like increasing people where they're like, I'm just going to go travel the world and find myself and like do all this. I'm like, these people would have made it 500 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, got this thing where I don't know, where people feel like they need to go beyond, like more is better. Like if I could get beyond the small town, I could be something. It's like, no, I mean, there's nothing wrong with going beyond, like going somewhere different, but you need to figure out, you need to realize that it isn't where you're at that's the problem. There's something that's an issue here.
Right.
I mean, if you go to most people throughout history, like a lot of people before we had transportation, like cars and trucks and planes and stuff, most people didn't go very far from where they were born. They kind of stayed in that area, and then sure, some people would travel and stuff, but by and large, it was like you kind of stayed roughly around where you were at. Now we've got all this technology and stuff that's increased this thing, and in a way, maybe it's increased people's claustrophobia, because like there's so many possibilities that it makes them feel more trapped because they're like, wow, I know what else is out there. But that's just like a thing where really it's not an issue with the show. It's more just an issue I have with culture because it's something we encourage people. Like we validate that issue that they have, like where they're like, oh, I feel trapped, or like even like a lot of friends when I was in high school going into college and stuff, a lot of my friends are like, oh, I just need to like go off somewhere really far away, so I need to go find myself at like this college. I was like, I feel like that's not going to solve whatever problem you're trying to solve. I don't think that's going to solve it. Because I don't know, like just if you look throughout history, most people have not been able to do that. And so whatever Sarah's problem is here, I don't think being in Smallville is like, I don't think that's the issue. I think there's a greater issue there that really, I mean, in the show, that might just be the issue. It's just that she feels trapped. She doesn't want to be like her mom. And so that might be it. But I think there is a deeper issue there. This is just more, this is the ministerial side of me. Like I'm in ministry, for those of y'all who've never watched these videos, like, I work at a church and stuff. This is where like my counseling, I'm just like, I feel like there's a deeper issue here we need to address. It's not just that. So there's a little soapbox for today. Time I was thinking like, ooh, like, I don't know how I'd respond to this situation if my kid said this, because I'd be like, I get where you're coming from, but I think that's a deeper issue. But like I said, it was a good scene. It was a good scene between them. I'm glad that they hopefully will be able to mend their relationship a bit going forward, and hopefully their relationship won't be as rocky as Jordan's and Clark's. There is also a nice continuity and parallel between them because both of them are, and they're trying to give each other more freedom and stuff and let them make their own decisions. And also, I don't know, maybe there's like a Smallville callback here. I just thought of it. But if you remember, in the first season of Smallville, the same day that Clark joined the football team, Lana quit cheerleading.
Oh.
And now, the first day whenever Clark's son joins the football team, Lana's daughter quits cheerleading.
Oh, wow.
I just thought of that. That's interesting.
That's pretty cool.
It's just coincidental, but that actually did happen, and it just clicked in my head. So there you go, Smallville Easter egg. But then after that, we've got Clark and Jordan. They wake up in the morning, Jordan's walking out, and Clark's like, and I don't know how Clark was standing there, but he was just waiting for Jordan to come out, and Jordan's like, what, is super stalking like one of your powers too? And it's like, okay. But Clark walks him down, and he basically shows him this chest full of like baseball stuff. And he says, hey, whenever I was in high school, I really wanted to try out for the baseball team. My dad didn't want me to do that. But I really, really wanted to. And
Yeah.
Jordan's like, well, did you? He's like, I almost did. I almost rebelled against my dad and did it. But ultimately I realized I wasn't doing it for baseball. And Jordan's like, was it for a girl? And Clark's like,
Yeah.
it's always for a girl. And I can guarantee you that girl is probably Lana.
Yeah.
Ironic because Jordan's kind of doing this for Lana's daughter. So once again, you see the parallels.
Right.
But then ultimately, Clark eventually tells him, you can play football.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a catch, and we'll talk about that catch in a second. But what did you think about that scene between Clark and Jordan?
Yeah. I just want to say, I feel like I'm constantly bashing on Jordan, but time after time, time after time in each episode, we see how like Clark and Lois, or even just Clark, kind of sets like these guidelines and is like, Jordan, like you need to follow this, right? And then during the episode, he rebels and does the exact opposite of what they told him not to do. But yet at the end, he always ends up going and like going more towards the side of what Jordan wants to do, which he usually like has justifiable reasons, not saying that like what Clark does is wrong, but I'm using it as the purpose that Jordan should be more grateful for his parents and what they do for him, because like he found out that he has superpowers and then he was mad about it, and then he took him to the Fortress of Solitude, and then he was mad about that because he wasn't as powerful as Superman. Then he goes and travels for the football team, and then he's like, you know what, I'll let you continue to do football. And then he was like, you can't go to school anymore. And then he lets him go to school. So it's like, he keeps on compromising and leaning more towards Jordan's side, but time and time again, Jordan just isn't grateful for it. And for some reason, that just gets on my nerves.
Nah, it gets on mine too, because Jordan, he keeps getting what he wants, even though he's done nothing to actually earn that. And when I say earn, I'm not saying you have to do things in order to earn it. Like, I'm not saying do good things and you get good things. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's just a matter of, honestly, judgment. Like, like he's done all the things that that would demonstrate to me. Like, if I was a parent here and Jordan's acting this way, I'd be like, dude, I can't trust you with that level of freedom. If you at least let me know that I can trust you, you don't even have to do, like, I'm not even asking you to go above and beyond. I just want you to do something that lets me know I can trust you. But thing that Clark, like, every time Clark's given him an inch, he's taking a mile. And I'm like, oh, this is not, I don't know. It'll probably pay off, but I don't know, that bothers me. But one thing that I wish they'd done here, I wish that they'd kind of gone the Smallville route. And I wish that they had made it to where Clark had also wanted to play football rather than baseball. I think they were just trying to change it up.
Right.
I'm just thinking about it. Football and baseball are very different sports. I mean, what's the worst Clark could do in baseball? Like, hit the ball too far? I mean, you know, like, that's not that bad. There's not really any, like, I can't see many places where it would be bad for Clark to play baseball. You know, run faster, right? So there's those advantages and stuff, but you can't injure people really. Like, there's not really a whole lot of, like, there shouldn't be a lot of
full contact. Yeah.
And so to me, I don't know if the parallel's perfect, because playing baseball and playing football are two totally different things. If Jordan wanted to go play baseball, I'd be like, that's fine. If you want to play basketball, that's fine. You want to play tennis, go for it. So that's literally like physical contact. It'd be kind of like if Jordan wanted to go do boxing or something. I was like, maybe not, man. Like, you don't know the extent of your powers yet. And also football, I mean, like, one of my roommates in college, he was a football player, and he was saying, like, he's a pretty level-headed guy, but he would say when you're out on the field, like, you can't help but just get, like, angry, and, like, you know, you just get, like, the emotion drives you a lot. Well, whenever Jordan's gotten angry, like, he starts shooting lasers out of his eyes. And it doesn't matter if you think you can control it. Everybody thinks they can control something until they can't. And so I'm like, I don't know, like, that was like, I wish that they would have gone the route where Clark had also played football, because then it would have been like, okay, if I could do it and you've got a 1/100th of my power, you can do it too. But going from baseball to football, I was like, okay, those are two totally different sports. That's like apples and oranges. Because Superman can play baseball, and I don't know. But I do see where he was going with it there. That was just one of the things I was like, I kind of wish that it had been the other way, just because it would have been more narratively satisfying.
Yeah.
It's still good. I feel bad every time we talk about these shows. I'm always like, it sounds like I'm bashing them. I'm not trying to. I think I just really enjoy them enough to where like I like nitpicking them.
To critically think, yeah.
Yeah, I'm critically looking at it. I'm not trying to like say it's bad. Obviously, I enjoy it. That's why we're doing these videos. Or I guess there could come the point where if it gets so bad, I'll do the videos to make fun of it. But I'm not making fun of it right now. I'm just saying this because these are things where I think it'd be a slight improvement. But he ends that whole conversation by saying there's going to be a little catch there. And what we see is we immediately cut to a scene where Jordan is walking with Sarah, right? And they're just kind of talking to each other. And Jordan, he's just, he's like laying on the flirt a little bit. And he's like, hey, I got a football game tomorrow. You want to come? I know you're not a cheerleader, but do you want to come with that? And this is where, once again, I was saying, I don't get why. I guess it's purely because she's pretty. Like, I truly do not see the appeal of Sarah so far as a character. Like, what is drawing people to her? You know what I mean? Like, like whenever I watched Smallville, I understood why Clark liked Lana beyond just her looks. Yes, she was a pretty girl, but she was also very sweet and she was nice, and like the drama only came in later on. Like really the whole season 1, there's really not a whole lot of drama. Season 2 and on is like, okay, she starts getting annoying. But so far, Sarah, she's like a very dramatic girl with everything. And like she's just like yelling at her mom in public and doing all this stuff and just causing all these problems, like causing fights, all like I don't personally see the appeal, so they haven't exactly sold me on that romance yet. And I do enjoy my romances in TV shows and stuff, but I can't even say I'm shipping them, right? Because I don't see the appeal for why he would want to be with her, and honestly, I don't see why she would want to be with him. Because really, it just seemed like moody, but
I think both of them have the same tendencies. So I feel like almost from their perspective, from our perspective, we see that. But from their perspective, it's almost like it's someone else that's just like them. And so they might overlook those characteristics, which you would think almost if you saw someone else that had the same tendencies, that you'd be like, that would make you more aware of what you do. Yeah. But maybe that just kind of like, it's like blinders for them, I guess. I'm just trying to in some way try and support it for them. That's the only thing I can think of. Is that they're both so much alike that they just have like these guards up to where they almost don't even see it.
Yeah, I guess they could just have that connection, like like they had that conversation right before he kissed her in the first episode, where they're just talking about how they're both like sad and kind of depressed. I guess let's be sad together. I don't. Yeah. It's one of those things. I guess as an audience member watching it, I don't feel like I guess I could see why they are interested in each other.
Yes,
I don't have any interest in either of them, really, because and it could just be because I'm older than the target audience. I mean, I don't think I am, because CW, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be for like teenagers to like mid-20s and stuff, and I'm 23, so I would think I fall into that target audience, but I don't know, and I would think you do too. So I don't know. I don't really know what's going on there, but I don't know. So far, I feel they might sell me on it later, but I'm gonna need some more character development. I need them to stop complaining so much, because
I agree.
I just like I'm not wanting more scenes between them. You know what I mean? Like that's the sad part. Like I'm like I could easily do without there being a romance here.
Yes.
But in the background we have Clark, and I love it. He's been hired as the because he didn't have a job, right? And I guess he's not getting paid for this either, but he quit his job at the Daily Planet. He's just being Superman and a dad full time. He's kind of the stay-at-home dad, I guess, here. But he stepped up to be like the assistant coach on the football team, which I think is a good decision, right? That's good. If he's allowing Jordan to play football, yes, you need to be there all the time, just in case. That's good. Like that's a good application. But what I love is that he's walking up and he's like acting like he's struggling to carry this.
Yes.
It's like, earlier in the episode, he's like one-arming a bridge, but he's like, oh, like, acting nerdy. And he's like, oh, hey guys, what y'all doing here? It seems y'all having a good conversation.
Yeah.
He's just acting nerdy, like a small town dad. You're like, oh hey. Really like that. What did you like about this whole like how the episode's kind of wrapping up?
Yeah, I liked the conversation after. I think it was after Sarah left, and it was just Clark and Jordan there, and he was like, hey, I need you to make it look like you need help carrying this. Like, we're going to carry it together. So then, like, it was just Clark coming in struggling. He's like, okay, we're going to act like we actually are having, like, a super hard time doing this. It was just, like, a cute little moment between Clark and Jordan, I think, just because they have so much conflict. Whenever they have, like, good, like, father-son little, like, conversations or, like, remarks, it really stands out a lot just because there has been so much tension. And so whenever it like wrapped up like that, I was like, oh, that was cute. That was sweet. And they, you know, like now they're both fumbling around, even though both of them have all of these powers that they can easily, you know, one arm or bridge and stuff like that. And so yeah, I liked that scene. I thought it was a good way to end it.
Yeah, and what I like is even right there, whenever they like pick it up, like Clark like over exaggerates. He's like, oh, and he's like, wait.
Yeah.
But real quick, just to bash on Jordan one more time before we kind of up, because there's one little scene at the end of this. I don't know, like the reason, like I do like it, like you just said, I like whenever like the conflict comes to an end and Jordan and Clark can kind of like just bond and be like happy father and son.
Yeah.
The issue is, so far, the only times that Jordan is happy is when he's getting his way. Like that's the only times he's happy. Whereas Clark, he's constantly giving up, like he's constantly being like, okay, I can give you this, I can give you this, and he's still happy either way. Like the only times he's frustrated is whenever he can't figure out what to do. But then no matter what, even if he's having to give up and like not exactly get things his way, he's happy. Jonathan, same thing. He will still look out for his brother even when he's not getting his way. Jordan will just cry and cry and cry until he gets his way. It's like, oh, I got my way. I'm happy now, Dad. It's like, oh my gosh, like,
yeah,
it's like I don't know. It just kills me because it's not even a first world problem, right? Like he's half an alien, so it's like an otherworldly problem.
Yeah,
it's beyond a first world problem. It's like just. But I do like these moments. Like I like whenever they're happy. And
I would agree.
I need conflict to drive it. I know that it's like a family show, kind of, so it's like you need the interfamily conflict, but I wish it didn't feel so forced sometimes.
Right.
And I think that's one reason why this episode was probably my least favorite one, because this is where it seemed like that was getting a little bit forced. Like I think it did feel natural to how teenagers react, but it still felt a little forced in some places because I was like, okay, this kid's gotta. Is he just totally unaware of things? Because he gets really just extreme at all times. But I don't want to bash on Jordan anymore. I really like this scene. I thought it was pretty good between him and Clark, and I like how Tyler Hoechlin is playing the character. He's really sold me on this Superman thing. Still, the suit looked kind of weird in this episode. Like whenever he was holding the bridge, it almost looked like a cosplay suit. Like it didn't really look like an official suit from like a show. It seemed like one you could buy at like a Halloween store.
Yeah.
But that being said, it was still a good scene. But then we have one final scene at the end of this, and we actually have the superpowered guy, I believe, right? He's in the car, and he's like on the phone talking to somebody.
Yeah.
And basically, he gets stopped because there's this woman standing in the middle of the road, and she shoots lasers out of her eyes and basically just incinerates him. And it ends.
Yeah.
What do you think's going on there?
I know whenever I first saw that, I rewinded it and I watched it again, and I was like, did I miss something? Like, did I miss a name? Because I was like really confused on who she was. I don't know if that's like a reference to anyone or comics or anything like that, because I haven't like read any of that. But I was very confused as to who she was. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of see how that's going, because now it seems like we have Superman and his son and like having to battle their powers, but now we're adding in like these other powerful superheroes of some sort that we don't really know who they are, and so now we're gonna see like the battle between the two, maybe. And
yeah, so we got all these different converging plot lines because it seems like Lois's storyline was like the Morgan Edge thing, but that got her involved with these superpower things, which brought Superman in there.
Right.
But then you've also got that whole like Captain Luthor thing, which didn't get any mention in this episode.
Yeah.
The main bad thing from the first two episodes. The last episode ended with black suited Superman lasering people. That didn't get addressed at all in this episode. So you still got hanging back there. And then you got Clark dealing with his kids and stuff. So there's really a lot of plot lines going on here. They're setting a lot, which is why I am excited to see where this goes in the future. But yeah, so that's how the episode ends. And that being said, just Brienne, what are your final thoughts about this episode before we wrap this up? Because this has been a pretty long video. Because, like I usually do, I ramble.
Yeah. I thought it was really good. I would agree that it wasn't one of my favorites, but it was still a good episode. I'm excited to see where they're going to take it because they're kind of bringing in a lot of new things. And I will say how you were talking about how there's a whole bunch of different plots. Again, I think they balance that really well because usually I'm not a fan whenever they have like a whole bunch of plots going on or like numerous antagonists and things like that. But they have so many different things, but yet they all intertwine. I think they do a really good job with that. So I hope they continue that, and I'm excited to kind of see what they're going to do with these new superhero villain situation that's going on.
Yeah, I'd say it didn't feel congested at all. So it does feel
Yeah.
like they're doing very good at balancing it all, and I hope that there's a good payoff in the end. But obviously, we're only 3 episodes in. It's kind of weird. I'm used to we're used to kind of binging stuff nowadays, so it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
We've been talking about the show for 3 weeks, but we're only 3 episodes in. It's like, oh, okay. So
Yeah.
but yeah, so I really liked the episode. I thought it was pretty good. And if you liked this episode, or if you didn't like this episode, let us know in the comments. Tell us what you liked about it. Tell us what you didn't like. If you liked this video or didn't like the video, let us know in the comments as well. Hopefully you liked it. But if you did, click the like button. Do that. Don't click the dislike button. That's not a good button. To act like that one doesn't exist. There's a subscribe button. You should click to that one. Click that one for sure. Notification bell. Click that as well. Those are good buttons. Once again, dislike button, bad. Like button, subscribe button, notification bell, good buttons. Click the heck out of those. And what you like about Superman and Lois. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say, Brienne, about the show? About anything in life? Any
I don't think so.
thoughts that you had today?
I think I'm good.
All right, sounds good. Well, if that is it, that is episode 3 of Superman Lois. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I know that it was long, but guess what? That's what we do here. And that being said, I'm David.
And I'm Brienne.
And this has been Now Let's Be Honest About Movies. Bye-bye.